We're all used to see home makeovers on TV and more recently online, where rooms and sometimes entire houses appear to have been transformed all at once, within weeks or days. But when it comes to real life, this is just not possible for the majority of people. It certainly isn't for me. I recently moved to a new apartment that has the style that I've been looking for. It's modern, light and open, with high ceilings, the perfect blank canvas. Even before moving in, I already had so many plans and references that I wanted to apply to the new place. But when I finally could, two things became very clear. I have to find a way to narrow down my ideas and finally start designing, and it is expensive. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 5 steps that I've been following to decorate my home gradually and with confidence. Step number 1. Create a mood board. Mood boards are a great starting point to any project. They're useful to capture the feeling you want a space to evoke and serve as a reference during the decoration process. It's interesting to have one mood board per room, so if you plan on designing multiple spaces in your home, try creating one for each as you move from one space to the next. Start by thinking about the purpose of the room and how you want it to feel like. For example, when designing my dining room, I wanted it to be modern, but still feel homey and cozy. With the idea in mind, search for pictures that represent that and save them to a board. Throughout the whole process, I like to use Milanote. It's a great tool for creative projects and allows you to keep everything organized in one single place. It's also very intuitive and free to use. I'll leave a link in the description if you'd like to try it out. So in Milanote, I create a new board for the room I'm going to design first. In my case, I chose a dining room. Then I create a mood board and start searching for images on Pinterest. At this point, the images you select don't have to exactly represent the room you're designing. It can include color swatches, landscapes, materials, everything that helps you concentrate the references you like in one place to guide you. This step can take as long as you like. When you're happy with the results, it's time to move on to the next step. Step number 2, draw a floor plan. This step is crucial to create a solid plan before you start shopping, since furniture shapes and sizes depend directly on the dimensions of the room and its layout. If you've never drawn a floor plan before, this may seem like a very difficult task, but believe me, it's not. It may take some time, but it's worth it. If, like me, you're not lucky to have a floor plan drawing of your house or apartment, the best thing that would help you in this step is a laser distance measurer. This makes measuring room dimensions so much easier and faster than a regular tape measure. I got mine from Amazon and it works perfectly fine. I'll leave the link in the description box. Before starting to measure, I like to draw a simple sketch of the general shape of the room to help me annotate. It's important to include doors and windows, as well as fixed items, such as my kitchen island here, for example, since we have to design around them and consider the main pathways throughout the room. Once you have all the measurements, it's time to draw the floor plan. I use an online tool called Coohom, and it's great. They do have premium features that you can pay for, but you can draw floor plans for free. I found it fairly easy to learn, and it also has a huge library of products and materials that can be used to create more elaborate designs in later stages of the process. I'll include the link in the description box if you'd like to check it out. After some time, you should be able to create a floor plan that represents the overall space of the room you'll be designing. Use it as a blank canvas to define the layout of the furniture you plan on buying, include the ones you might already have, and see what you can come up with. In my case, the living and dining spaces are integrated, and I already had a sofa and some other pieces for the living room. Then I used them as a starting point. That left me with a very specific area where I could put the dining table and chairs. Leaving enough room to move between furniture pieces and behind chairs, I came to the conclusion that my ideal table shape would be rectangular or oval, with around 180 centimeters of length. But anything between 160 and 200 centimeters could work. I could also see that there would be not enough space for a console table in the dining area, considering this is the main pathway from the entryway to the main bedroom, and I didn't want the room to feel busy. Using these definitions as a guide, it's time to move to step number 3. Create a sample board. With a clear idea of the shapes and dimensions of furniture pieces, it's time to start browsing for them. Before starting this process, I had no idea of how much a dining table and chairs would cost. So although I had not defined a budget at the start, I quickly established a reasonable range after some time browsing through retailers' websites. So I started using it as a filter to help me narrow down the possibilities, along with the dimensions I had already defined. While I was searching, I started to create a sample board for my dining room. Sample boards include the actual items, colors, and materials you plan on using in your design in scale. It's useful to include a picture of the floor and also the color of walls to give you a better visualization of the whole. In my example, I ended up creating several boards actually to help me visualize the combinations of all the items that had piqued my interest. In this phase, you should also include other items, such as decor and lighting fixtures, and see how they all come together and if it resembles the goal you had in mind when you defined your mood board. Milanote is also great for this step, since you can add pictures and links to the board for easy access to the item stores. After some iterations, I narrowed down the possibilities to 2 tables and a set of chairs that could work for both. We ended up choosing the less expensive option, keeping in mind all the other pieces that we would need to purchase to make the room come to life. Building a sample board can take a long time, especially if you, like me, like decor. Every time I'm scrolling through Instagram, I come across an interesting pendant or pot or any other decor item that I would love to include to my design. When this happens, I try adding them to the sample board to see how it looks. Eventually, I end up keeping my favorite pieces and discard the ones that don't make sense for this room or project. When you finally feel confident about your choices, it's time to start shopping, right? Yeah, I would love to buy everything all at once and have the room ready in a couple of days. But as I mentioned before, I just can't. This is why I'm moving on to step number 4. Make a prioritization list. If you're planning a room makeover or decorating an entire home for the first time and you don't have the budget to buy everything in one shot, then a prioritization list will help you set your priorities straight and organize your decisions. Although I plan on going through this process for all rooms in my apartment, the living and dining areas are the ones we use the most, and therefore needed more attention first. Within this space, the dining room was the most important part, since we didn't have a dining table or chairs, so these items were our number 1 priority. After we got that covered, the next item on our list was some kind of cabinet or shelving unit for this corner next to the TV, to house the video game console, internet cables, and all that. It's also where we put our record player, which was previously stored away specifically because there was nowhere to put it. Since this piece serves a very important function, it became priority number 2, coming in before the rest of the decor items for the dining area and extra seating for the living room. When you're making your list, try to think about what's more important to you and put those items first. Usually, the more functional ones would come first rather than decor, but this is up to you and what you value most. It may be useful to also include things like paint for the walls if you plan on having something like that done to your space, since it also has a cost. And if you, like me, have multiple rooms you plan to design in your house, it's okay to prioritize items for different rooms rather than finishing one entire room before moving on to the next. Remember, there is no right or wrong in this process, only what makes more sense for you and your family, especially if you have an organized plan to help you along the way. Step number 5, adapt. So you have your mood board, floor plan, sample board, and prioritization list, and you start to buy some items for your space. They come in, and your design starts to come to life. Then you realize the wood tone of the table is not exactly what you expected, or after arranging the chairs around it, maybe a bench would look nice on this side. This is why step number 5 is all about updating your plan as you go. Creativity is fluid, our tastes change, and our designs should reflect that. So if that happens to you, don't be afraid to change, add, or remove items from your sample board and list. It may take weeks, months, or even years for your home to feel and look like the one you planned. And that is okay. Before wrapping things up, I wanted to quickly add some tips that might help you along the way. If you plan on painting the walls, it might be easier to define the colors after you pick some of the most important furniture pieces, as you can use them as a reference. Decor items and art are often more difficult to choose. I tend to leave those for last, since I can better match what's already in the space. Sourcing items on Facebook Marketplace is a great way to save money and find some hidden gems to complement your design. You don't have to buy everything brand new, and you can always sell some items that maybe don't match your style anymore and make room for new ones. So there you have it, the 5 steps that I've been following to decorate my own home gradually. By the way, it's still very unfinished, but I'm confident that it will turn out exactly as I imagined. A beautiful and comfortable space to live in. I hope these tips can be useful for you in your design journey. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I plan on sharing my own decoration progress here, and I also make home tour videos that you can use as inspiration, such as this one right here. If you'd like to further support the channel, you can buy me a coffee using the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.